in college athletics is the conference realignment. We just showed you the graphic earlier in the hour that after Texas and Oklahoma decided they're leaving for the SEC, 36 schools among FBS have now switched conferences. One of them, the most recent, Texas State in San Marcos. The Bobcats are headed to the Pac-12 after this upcoming season. We're now joined by Kelly Damphousse, the president, and AD Don Coryell. There they are with us on 365 Sports. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Craig and Paul with me as well, and we appreciate you joining us. What does all of this mean if, in fact, the athletic department in some cases is the front porch to a university? What does this mean for Texas State?
Well, you stole my line. Yeah. So if I had $1 for every time I heard a college president say that athletics was the front porch of the university, I'd have so much money I wouldn't have to ask for donations for NIL or anything else. But, presidents say that a lot, but sometimes universities don't think about investing in athletics to that level. And so they invest in other places and expect athletics to kind of handle things on their own. But if you really believe it's the front porch of university, you really need to invest in it. And that was a decision that I made when I came to Texas State 3 years ago. This is actually my anniversary date. And Don and I had a meeting and we said, at some point, I'm an OU guy. So I was at OU for 20 years. I was a faculty rep there as well. And so I'm very familiar with what was happening with OU in Texas and the fallout and so on. And I said, at some point, there's going to be another realignment. How do we position ourselves to be there so we can, when the music stops, there's a chair for us somewhere. And he said, I've got a plan. So my job as the president is to fund the guys with the big ideas. And Don had the big ideas. And the first thing he did was hire G.J. Kenney. And that was the beginning of local changes.
Don, as athletics go, when you came down to your part of this, is just assessing what's best for Texas State. How can the Bobcats win not only at football? How can they get better all across the board? This was not a decision of like the Pac-12 called and you guys were like, yes, right away. You thought about it for a while. You thought about what the benefits were. What ultimately led you to the Pac-12 as this is the best place for the Bobcats to be going forward?
Well, there's a lot of different things. And one, thanks for having us on the show. We appreciate it. For me, when you get into college athletics, either as an administrator or as a student athlete or as a coach, you get into it because you want to compete at the absolute highest level, right? That's where the excitement is. You really want to challenge yourself. I think that's what I'm probably personally most excited about is the competition, the peers that we're going to be with now. I think the Pac-12 is going to be a top 5 football conference in the country. I think it's going to be a top 5 men's basketball conference in the country. It's super strong in the other sports, when you dig into it as well. So from a competitive standpoint, that was really appealing to us. I will tell you, we think it's going to drive our brand. We think this is going to open up doors to a broader national audience. I can tell you, I think it's going to elevate our recruiting. I think it's going to help with the retention of our current student athletes in this transfer portal window window transfer portal and windows that everybody has to deal with. And I think the excitement for our fans is really going to help us financially. We think we're going to sell more tickets. We think we're going to have more donations. We think we're going to be able to fundraise more for our capital projects. So there's a lot of benefits of this move. It was just a massive announcement for us, and we're super excited about it.
Don, in talking to your coaches on a daily basis, probably hourly basis in some cases, depending on what's going on, you're obviously keeping them apprised as best you can with what you can tell them along the way. But as this sort of started to come to a head, what's been the reaction of the coaches and the opportunities they see, but also the challenges and just the excitement level over it all?
Yeah, it was awesome. I've said this on a couple of the other interviews. When our Board of Regents approved the move yesterday, I opened up the office, started walking down the hall, and just started high-fiving anybody in sight, right? And then we kind of went straight into a head coaches in full staff meeting that we had. And when we walked in, there was just a level of excitement in that room. You could just feel it. You could see it. I know our coaches are excited about this. I know our student athletes are pumped about this. The smiles, the congratulations were all over the place. Afterwards, I got a chance to visit with our men's basketball program because not all of our student athletes are on campus right now. And our men's student athletes were basically in their locker room. So I popped in there and told them, And you could just see, man, the guys were excited, right? I mean, they know that they're going to get to play against Gonzaga. They know that they're going to get to play against San Diego State and all the other great institutions that are in the league. And so overall, the staff and coaches, this is a big deal for them, right? This is such a great opportunity to compete against some of the best institutions in the country, and they're fired up about it.
So, Kelly, you have that background, as you mentioned, with Oklahoma, the president at Texas State, and Don Coryell is the one that hired GJ and other things too. When did you know this was? Because this has lingered. It's been simmering. There's so many moving parts. When did you know, and what was the reaction, and who did you tell first?
Well, it did linger. I mean, if you go back in time, we've been tracking media and Texas State and Pac-12 and rumors, and it goes back to September when people were talking about us publicly. Now, we had private conversations before that, but it kind of came out in September. We talked to the Pac-12 early on, and they said that we really want to get, now that we've got kind of the 7 FBS schools, we want to get the media deal settled, and then we're going to talk about membership. And then And because of that, we kept conversations going. I was talking to chancellors and presidents and the commissioner, and Don was working with athletics directors and other people he knew in the industry in those schools. And then, but there was a lull for a long period of time, and I think people thought like this just disappeared. But they were really working really hard on their media deal. And periodically, I'd have a conversation asking like, "Where are we, and what can we do, and what more can I tell you about our schools?" And for the most part, I was trying to explain who Texas State is to people who don't know where San Marcos is and don't maybe understand the geography of Texas. And presidents and athletics directors don't always see athletics in the same realm. And so trying to do my best to sell Texas State as a university, not just the athletics program, but academics and where we are with our enrollment and so on. And so that kind of goes on for a long time. And then it really comes down to last week when they announced their media deal with their first media partner on Monday. That triggered a phone call to us saying, okay, let's talk seriously about what this would look like. Series of conversations, negotiations, and a process that we went through there. And then got a formal invitation on Thursday night to join. We had to go through a process where we have to get a region approval for me to be able to buy out of the Sun Belt Conference, because there's a $5 million buyout clause, and I don't have authority to do that without region approval. So we had to schedule a meeting on Friday, have the meeting on Monday morning, and then once the meeting was scheduled on Friday, that became a whole news event because everyone knew what was happening. Mm-hmm. You know, lots of people were watching the meeting itself. It was in some ways kind of anticlimactic because all the action happened in executive session where the regents asked really good questions about, you know, they have a fiduciary responsibility about the university and state funding and so on. And we came back and they voted so quickly, I wasn't actually ready for it. And then when it happened, I said, holy cow, it's done. And then we just hung up. And then I was like in a room by myself. Don was able to go high five people, but it's just me and my wife. And we're like each other. And then slowly, well, not slowly, but very quickly, text messages and social media messages and so on. And then it became like, okay, we thought the last 10 months was hard. Just think what the next year is going to be like, getting ready to join a new conference. We're trying to build a conference at the same time and creating new partnerships, getting the athletics department facilities ready, but also getting the teams ready. There's a lot of work in front of us now. And so we're excited about that. Now we went from like anxiety, like you're never sure till it actually gets signed, to great joy. And now just like determination, like we got to make this happen now.
Kelly, you in kind of selling Texas State, I mean, we know better because we've been here. And like, I remember Southwest Texas State back in the day. And I remember lots of my friends that went there and whatnot. But for those that weren't aware and those that maybe still aren't aware why Texas State makes sense and why they're this burgeoning brand, you don't have to sell us, but kind of what would you tell people that don't know exactly what they're getting with Texas State in the Pac-12?
Well, we'll be the biggest university in the Pac-12. We have almost 41,000 students last fall. We'll be at 43,000 students this coming fall. So rapid enrollment and growth. When people have been talking about the enrollment cliff in higher education going to be hitting in 2025, where enrollment will start going down around the country, it's actually growing here tremendously. And Texas State is a very popular university among high school seniors. We're the most applied to school in Texas among high school seniors applying through the Apply Texas app. For this fall semester, over 60,000 high school seniors have applied to come to Texas State, and that's before the Pac-12 announcement even was hitting. I mean, these are people who were applying back last year, and so it's very popular. It's a great university academically. We've got historically been a teachers' college, and so we graduate more future Texas teachers than any other university in the world. And so we're excited about how we serve K through 12 in the state of Texas. We are pretty Texas centric right now. About 95% of our students come from Texas, but since we've had success in the football field, our out of state enrollment has more than doubled. Applications from international locations have more than doubled. We have almost triple the number of international students now than we had when I first got here. We're going to be an R1 institution by the end of 2027. There's a long story about why we're not R1 right now. Our faculty have been doing research, but we didn't have enough PhD programs to go through. So we invested a lot of money in PhD programs and developing new PhD programs. And so we are now qualified, or we're hitting all the metrics for the R1 or Research 1 designation. So our research peers will be Harvard, Yale, Princeton, UCLA, Oregon State, Washington State, Texas A&M. Those will be our research academic peers now at Texas State. And our research, our academic success plays out into student success. So our retention numbers are at record rates. Our graduation rates are going through the roof. And so students are coming here, having their lives changed, getting a great experience, leaving here with almost no student debt, and going off and making this a better society, and making Texas and America better, and the world better as more and more international students come here. So we've got a great story to tell. I haven't talked about the San Marcos River and Sewell Park and the beauty of the campus and the infrastructure and architecture. I haven't even talked about all that stuff, or having the number 22 theater program in the world located at Texas State University, top 5 in the country among public institutions. There's so much to talk about here. That's what athletics allows me to do. Could you imagine, without this happening this week, you guys invited me to come talk about academics at Texas State? It wouldn't happen, right?
And Don Coryell, you've been there, and you took over as the full-time AD, and you made decisions. You've hired other coaches, but GJ, and the style, the kind of person he is, I've known him since he was a sophomore in high school at Canton. His dad, of course, former Baylor linebacker, was the head coach. He's got this charisma. There's something about him that's very special. How much has he helped in what has given value to Texas State too?
Well, Kelly and I have said this. Without GJ and without the turnaround of our football program, we're not sure, but maybe we're not having this conversation right now. So it's been ultra important, and it was obviously a top priority for us to correct our football program. He's been unbelievable. I say this a lot. He evaluates talent, in my opinion, as well as anyone I've ever seen, maybe in any sport. And he's been he's just been a blessing for our department. What he's been able to do with our football program. I love working with the guy. He's super competitive. He's so excited about this league. He's ready to go toe to toe with everybody. It's translated into great crowds for us, more revenue for our department, more exposure for the university and for the athletics department. I'm not sure we could ask for more than GJ Kenny has been able to do for us. Just thrilled with the results, and moving forward, we expect bigger things. We really do. We think the Pac-12 is the best path for our football program to go to the college football playoffs, and that's our goal.
Have you guys started working on some sort of memo or guide to send to your fellow conference mates for things they need to have prepared in the city when San Marcos comes to Boise and to Fresno and all these other places? Because you guys like to have a good time.
It's funny. We went to our first bowl game in December 26, 2023, a date that is burned in my memory. And in the second quarter of the game, one of our alumni texted me. I was on the field. And he said, "Hey, we're out of beer." And I said, "Well, go get more beer." He said, "No, you don't understand. We are out of beer on the sidelines here, or in the stadium." And then I saw a sea of maroon-clad fans walking around to the other section and then coming back carrying back beers. And by the third quarter, the stadium was out of beer. And we won that game, and it was a great game and great game plan and some great events happen there. But the story of the stadium running out of beer actually had longer legs, and using a media parlance, people are still talking about the fact that we ran out of beer at that game. And the next year, we played there the next year, and they didn't run out of beer that year. They were ready for us. Right. We got to get people ready for us.
Hey, I tell you, we're fun here. We're Texas State. You know, this is what we do, right? I mean, even with our kind of press conference celebration event on Monday, we talked about this. You know, we could have had this on our club level at our football stadium, but you know what? Everybody has one of those. So we're going to take this thing to Sewell Park, which is the crown jewel of our campus, where the San Marcos River runs right through the beautiful, crystal clear San Marcos River. For all we know, Kelly and I may do the press conference floating on inner tubes down the river. But we're going to have fun here. And to your point, hopefully those teams are ready for us.
I went to Randolph High School, which, as you guys know, is just right down the road, the Air Force Base. I know all about those rivers. I know all about all the Stinky Falls and other places that are around that New Braunfels, San Marcos area. When it comes to the money you're about to make in the Pac-12, they just got the new TV deal. Compared to what you're doing now, is there how much was the discussion about offsetting the travel costs that are a part of now being a part of a conference that's obviously in a completely different, or a lot of schools in a completely different time zone?
Kelly, you want me to take that? I will tell you, yeah, we're aware of the travel cost increase. I will say it's kind of interesting. We're going to spend more money, but we actually think we'll be more efficient. Mm-hmm. When you look at how we travel right now in the Sun Belt, you know, there's some really long bus trips. You know, you're talking 7, 8, 9 hour bus trips to Lafayette, Louisiana, Monroe, Louisiana, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Mobile, Alabama. Those are trips that we will bus to with a lot of our sports moving forward. You know, those bus trips aren't going to be an option. You know, you're flying into places with a lot of, you know, their international airports are directly in the cities that you're going to. Mm-hmm. And so we actually think that we'll save time. We are going to have to charter more with a lot of our sports. But even some of the flights within the Sun Belt are challenging. You fly to Charlotte, North Carolina, and then you got to drive 3 hours to Boone. You fly to Washington, D.C., you got to go a couple hours to James Madison. You don't have quite as much as kind of that secondary travel in the Pac-12 as well, where you're flying to an airport and then have to drive a substantial distance. I think maybe an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half might be some of your longest flights. Longest drives after commercial flights. So we think we'll be more efficient. Actually, we're going to have to spend a little bit more money, and we're ready to do that.
How much did it at least put you guys more on the radar, the win in 23 at Baylor?
It helps, right? I mean, you know, that was at the time a great win for us, right? You know, it's always if you can go in and beat a Big 12 team on the road, you know, you're going to talk about that, and that's going to linger for a while, and that's great for recruiting and it's great for messaging. But really, it was more about the comprehensive success, I would say, of not only our football program but our athletics department across the board. You know, we won our Conference Commissioners Cup 3 out of the past 4 years here in the Sun Belt Conference. We're really strong in the majority of our sports. We've got a few that we've got to work on. We understand that, but I think our overall success was super appealing. And then obviously the recent success of the football program, you know, drove a lot of this as well.
Southwest Texas State, of course. Oh, I'm sorry, Don, go ahead. No, Kelly, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that, you know, football has shown also that when we get on TV, a lot of people want to watch us. We don't get on TV quite as much with our current contract, but we had more people watched our first bowl game. 2.8 million people watched that game. That was the most watched sporting event that day. We had almost 2 million people watch the next bowl game the year after, which was on Friday afternoon, about 3:00 in the afternoon of a work week. We had Arizona State come here and play on a Thursday night. We had 1 million people watch that game, and the stadium was packed for that. And so people want to read about, they want to watch Texas State compete. I think part of it's the style of play and the exciting coach that we have and winning games. That all plays into this kind of the whole package about why Texas State athletics was attractive. But as Don said, it's across the board. Everyone pays attention to men's basketball and football, but being successful in all the sports also played a huge role in this effort as well.
Don, you guys have a great history in baseball as well. I mean, there's a lot of things, and it's interesting to hear. Like you mentioned that Arizona State game. Arizona State, I think, on a much larger scale, had kind of the same issue you guys did before you came in, Kelly. Of like, you have this just huge university that's making all these changes. Their athletics weren't doing anything. Texas State, before you guys kind of came in and took over, was a little bit stagnant. How come that? This is kind of a new thing of athletics being the front door, as we've said. Kelly, I'll let you answer that first, and opening that up that more schools haven't followed. Like it honestly took Arizona State moving into the Big 12 for them to go, oh, we probably need to kick some bucks over here.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was at University of Oklahoma, one of my favorite stories was of an early president that had been there for many, many years. And after World War II, they recruited a lot of veterans from World War II to come to Oklahoma to play football. And you may know this, but Oklahoma has the longest holds a current record for the longest winning streak in NCAA football history. And they lost to Notre Dame, then they won 56 games in a row, and then lost to Notre Dame again. But along the way, the president famously quoted, "I want to build a university that the football team can be proud of." And I've never forgotten that quote because it talks about in that university, the football team was telling the story of OU. And now when you think of OU, you think of athletics, but you also think of prestige because of how OU gymnastics and softball and baseball and basketball and football have all done well. There's a halo effect of athletics that actually tells people that if athletics is good, the whole university must be great as well. And so I got to serve alongside Joe Castiglione, who's known as one of the best athletics directors in the country when I was a faculty athletics rep there. I got 5 years of tutelage under him. I saw how he invested wisely into making his athletic programs be so great. And the proof is in the pudding, what he's done there, because things were rough before he got there. But that just, to me, was a lesson in the power of athletics in the modern culture of higher education in America. Academic reputation is important, but athletics really leads the way.
It's amazing, Don and Kelly, again, from Texas State University, headed to the Pac-12 after this upcoming school year. I just had a couple of comments in the chat room about, man, Texas State has a lot more going for it than I knew prior to this segment. But I go back and I think about this only because I mentioned I went to school in San Antonio. The 1981 and 82 football teams won a national championship with Jim Wacker, who went on to play or coach, of course, at TCU. And this blows me away. And yet this is who we are now in college athletics. The changes that Texas State has a chance to be able to do something like this when really 25, 30 years ago, this was just not going to happen.
Yeah, it's a different place, right? And we're a different university and we're a different athletics department. But I will tell you, we embrace the heck out of that history. You can't miss that 1981, 1982 national championship signage when you're at UFCU Stadium here. So it's important to us to preserve that and live that. But this is for those alums.
Absolutely.
This is for those past student athletes. They want this as badly as we do. They would love for us to add 2025, 2026 national champions on the side of that football stadium. So yeah, you're right. It's different, but we've got strong history in a lot of sports, and we don't want to overlook that. But we're excited about the opportunities that this presents moving forward for us. Again, I think it's going to open some doors that we haven't been able to walk through in the past.
Kelly, as the president, last question for me, and we appreciate you guys again, your time today. Today, July 1st, started revenue sharing. Today, money went to student athletes around the country. As you step into this new role and what you guys are going to do, is it like a huge, wow, what are we doing? And the challenges ahead because of what we see now in college athletics, the cost of running college athletics.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've actually seen, I think there was an assumption that the Autonomy 4 or Autonomy 5 conference schools would be a breeze for them. They can find $20 million in the seat cushions of the waiting room outside the athletic department's office. Well, it turns out that many of them are expressing that it's going to be a challenge for them to meet that level of spending because their budgets are already stressed. Very few of them actually operate in the black at that level. And so the ability to come with an extra $20.5 million will be very challenging for them. For us, $20.5 million is certainly a lofty target, but we're certainly not going to play in that area. But we believe, and even before the deal with the Pac-12 was struck, that revenue sharing would be a differentiator among our peer institutions. And so we wanted to be really very actively involved in it. We've known that revenue sharing was coming for a while. It took a long time for the deal to get settled and for the court case to get signed by the judge. But once it did, we were ready for it, and we already had a plan to revenue share at the highest possible level at our level, so that we can give our coaches everything that they need, that they don't lose a student athlete who goes to another school at the same level of us because they're going to get a few dollars more. That we'll be competing with institutions that might have a higher reputation than us, but they may not have the resources that we have and our coaches have. And so I'm excited about that. I think being in a different conference will help us retain a lot of our students and attract some students to come here, but that's not enough. You've got to be able to share revenue at a level that makes a difference, because in many ways, these student athletes are making business decisions that each of us would make. And you can hate the game, but you can't hate the players, because they're making decisions that we would all do.
I know you guys got to go. By the way, thanks to Lindsay Olson. We knew her when she's been in the role of where she is now with you guys. And she's great at what she does, help setting this up. We do appreciate your time. Thank you guys, and congratulations on what's happening.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. That's Kelly Damphousse, the president, and also Don Coryell, the director of athletics at Texas State University in San Marcos. What a time it's been for them. We appreciate the access. I know that was a little longer than sometimes we have segments, so hope you enjoyed that, and a bunch of you that didn't know much about Texas